is on how plants put nutrition together. And this is actually the treasure trove of what plants are capable of. These are plant primary metabolites. These are plant secondary metabolites. And now we're going to start to tie all of this together. This is where we get a really clear understanding of what our minerals, our enzymes, and our biology is contributing into our food production. This is why either we're healthy or why we're sick. Okay? Plant primary metabolites. The first thing a plant does is produce carbohydrates from photosynthetic energy, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. All it takes is those three elements to start forming carbohydrates. And when you look at plant structure, it's absolutely simplistically brilliant. You have simple sugars, which are your monosaccharides. Then you have disaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. Well, all God did was take a very simple structure of monosaccharides, put two monosaccharides together, and you have a disaccharide. Well, then you take 3 to 10 monosaccharides and you get oligosaccharides. And then you start putting lots and lots of monosaccharides together to get polysaccharides. So again, it's a very basic construction that just gets added to. And so as we look at this, you have carbohydrates, proteins from amino acids, okay? We have lipids and oils, okay? All of our living systems run on enzymes, okay? We don't breathe, we don't think, we don't move muscles, we don't process thoughts without enzymes running this. And then when you look at the activation of enzymes, we need minerals, we need vitamins. There are two groups of activators for enzymes. They're trace minerals and vitamins. And you have fat and water-soluble vitamins. And so there's a whole litany, a whole magnificent list of what minerals activate which enzymes that help produce which compounds. So this is all very documented. There's some wonderful research on this. The basic message is if the mineral is missing, the functions are dormant. Doesn't happen. Plants simply shut down that process. Enzymes are supported by microorganisms. Enzymes are destroyed by pathogenic organisms and toxins. So how your pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides work is they're basically enzyme inhibitors. They stop part of the function in the insect or the plant or the animal. Okay, again, every bodily function that we have, blinking, breathing, moving muscles, everything, processing thoughts is driven by enzymes. And this is why we need our trace elements. We need our vitamins. And it's important to have the trace elements to produce the vitamins because there are no vitamins in the periodic table of elements. They don't naturally exist as elements. These are compounds that are made by minerals and enzymes. And the other thing that's so crucial is molybdenum does not substitute for cobalt. Cobalt does not substitute for copper. Vanadium and titanium and gallium and strontium do not substitute for iron and zinc and manganese. They are all very individual. Okay? Most of our enzymes are proteins and they make these biochemical processes happen at the rate of thousands to millions of times faster. Again, these are our cofactors, our trace elements, our fat and water-soluble vitamins. So you can go back and do the research on this. You can look at manganese. This particular enzyme is producing all kinds of really cool sugars. That's what this thing is saying in a nutshell, all right? It's got to have the trace element, the enzyme to produce all of these polysaccharides and glycoproteins. You look at molybdenum. This is altering the nitrate reductase and the nitrogenous enzymes. This is the conversion of our nitrates into nitrites. This is the conversion of our atmospheric gas into symbiotic microbial nitrogen for legumes. This is how it works. Molybdenum's not there. The microbe and or the plant can't make these alterations. Nickel, you've got to have it for your urease enzymes and Also for your superoxide dismutase, which is a wonderful, wonderful free radical eliminator. You look at your zinc element. Zinc alone runs over 300 enzymes, and there are thousands of enzymes. And without these minerals, these enzymes are shutting down. Now think about this. If zinc is going to activate this carbonic anhydrase enzyme, this is going to start a compound. This is not the end of what it's making. There could be hundreds of enzymatic processes behind this particular enzyme. It will pass it from this enzyme to the next enzyme to the next enzyme, all relying on different minerals to ultimately make these carboxyl groups. And we've got to have that chain intact. When it breaks partway down the assembly line, this becomes an incomplete carbohydrate or an incomplete protein. And nature understands this, and it will come in and destroy it. This is amazing research that was done back in the 1950s by Dr. Philip Callahan. And what he learned through his research was that plants emit electromagnetic frequencies, and insects interpret those. And what they're doing is they're analyzing the plant's nutrient content. Because if the minerals are missing and the formations of nutrition is missing, the signals that the plant emits are different. And they understand through their divine intelligence which they can eat and which they cannot. And that's the division. The plant is literally signaling out there into the world what it is developing and containing. And nature will allow it to live or take it out at that point. You look at your B vitamins. You can look at as a coenzyme, the enzyme class and what it's doing. So you've got B1s and B2s. You've got B3s and B6s. You can't produce cobalt or cobalamin without cobalt. It's B12. Everything will die. Our animals and us will die without B12. You can look up all of the minerals, all of the enzymes, all of the functions, and you can go on and on and on looking at how things are put together, how things are run, and what products are produced. So when you go into plant primary metabolites, you have carbohydrates first. They come from sun, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. There's some mineral, and we have all kinds of sugar formations. It's just a marvelous process. Then you have proteins that form next. Okay, this is adding carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Then you're adding the nitrogen and sulfur that you're going to start producing amino acids, peptides onto complete proteins. Next comes your lipids, your fats and oils. This is the development of your omega-3s, your omega-6s, and your omega-9s. And this is the additional energy that's required. Your lipids, these essential fats, are all phosphate-based. This is not your energy you want to be without in your plants, your livestock, or mankind. Now, the most fascinating part of all of this are your plant secondary metabolites. And this is where this incredible brilliance of divine creation comes into place. And we're just going to go through some of this fairly quickly, but I want to give you an idea of what plant potential is. Okay, so plant primary metabolites, they help plants deal with sunlight, UV radiation, antibacterial, antifungal. Plants are always communicating with their environment. They're attracting pollinators, but they're also repelling herbivores that eat on them. They send signals through the air and through the soil. They have diminished levels of function because of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Okay, these plant secondary metabolites inhibit the growth of competing plants. They help them with temperature tolerance, all kinds of wonderful things. But let's look at what they are. Okay, so here is the structure of some plant secondary metabolites. What we're going to do is look at what they are, and you actually know a lot of what these are. But as we look into what they're producing and how they produce it, we're going to get a really good look at what is or is not happening in our food chain. Okay? So in plant secondary metabolites, you have four major groups. You have alkaloids, terpenoids, phenolics, and sulfonated amino acids. Now, you know what some of these are. So let's look at our alkaloid group. Caffeine, nicotine. Any of you cattlemen lost cattle from larkspur due to paralysis of the respiratory system? That's an alkaloid. Morphine and cocaine are all alkaloids. Terpenoids. Let's look at one particular class, essential oils. Now, I know you guys, a lot of you guys or your wives are familiar with these. They're terpenoids, right? The yellow in our egg yolks, our butterfat, and our lard, these are carotenoids or carotenes. They're, again, terpenoids. We have rubber. We also have cardiac glycosides. Right, now we're going to go into some phenols. These are flavonoids and non-flavonoids. And in the non-flavonoid side, if any of you guys have taken salicylic acid, that is aspirin. Plants produce this. In the flavonoid side, there's a group of wonderful compounds called oxygen reactive absorption capacity. This is your ORAC, or ORAC capacity, which is how you absorb and get rid of free radical damage, okay? And so in general, they're reds, purples, blues. These are the colors in plants that are filled with these type of flavonoids. Then you have sulfonated amino acids, which are your cruciferous vegetables. These are anti-cancer, or they're liver detoxifiers. Your alliums, antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, anti-cancer. So let's look at one group, just essential oils. All right, we have hydrocarbons and oxygenated compounds. Now, again, we're taking the secondary metabolites, we're breaking it down into different groups. Now we're looking at subgroups, and then we're going to look at more subgroups. But just in the terpenoid groups here, we've identified over 22,000 different terpenoids, and the number is climbing. In each component, each terpenoid, there's between 300 and 800 different constituents or components in each terpenoid. So you start doing the math, you have somewhere between 6 to 7 million different components to 17 million components just in one of the four groups. So when we look at the oxygenated compounds, we have esters, aldehydes, and ketones. I want to back up here and just go through these. In the hydrocarbons of essential oils, we have monoterpenes, and there's 1,000 or more of these identified, and the number is increasing. We have sesquiterpenes, 7,000 plus. Diterpenes, 3,000 plus. The sesterterpenes, now this is 5 groups and going up. Triterpenes, 6 groups and going up. Tetra-terpenes, 8 and going up. And so these are increasing all the time. In our oxygenated compounds, we have esters, aldehydes, and ketones. Our esters are calming, relaxing, antifungal, antispasmodic. Our aldehydes, anti-infectious, anti-inflammatory, fever-reducing. They work on hypotension, anti-aseptic, antimicrobial, and antifungal. Our ketones regenerate our cells. They help with formation of our tissues. All of our mucus linings, really from our esophagus all the way to the end of our colon, are part of the ketone compounds. These help with asthmas, colds, flus, coughs, and our respiratory disease. Our essential oils continue into alcohols, phenols, and oxides. They stimulate immunity. They're diuretics, antibacterial, antifungal, or antiseptic. Now we get into the phenols. These are the most powerful antibacterial, anti-infectious, antiseptic. They stimulate our nervous system and our immune system. Our oxides are anesthetic, antiseptic, and help with our respiratory systems. Now, we look at one group, the first one in our hydrocarbons of our essential oils, monoterpenes. We have apinine and bpinene. This stops the absorption of our bone material. That causes osteoporosis. It is also antibacterial for gram-positive and gram-negative microorganisms. These can be pathogenic microorganisms. Camphene, insect repellent, cholesterol reducer. Myrcene, cancer preventative, cholesterol suppressant. Limonene, cholesterol suppressant, anti-cancer, antibacterial, antifungal, antiseptic. The largest selling group of drugs in the world are statin drugs to what? Suppress cholesterol. Okay, lots of nasty side effects. Plants do this without the side effects. When you look at more monoterpenes, you have antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. And the list goes on and on and on. When we get into our sesquiterpenes, again, we have all kinds of compounds regulating all kinds of systems. We have antifungal, regulate the stomatal closing and opening in our plants. We have attracts predatory insects that would take out pathogenic insects feeding on plants, stimulates insulin release in our pancreas, insecticidal, repellent. We continue on anti-potent, antibacterial, antifungal, deters insects feeding in plants. Again, plants have an immune system, but without trace elements, activating enzymes, these compounds are not being made. So again, we look at antimicrobial, antifungal, effective against the AIDS virus. Okay, we have anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, diterpenes, retinol, vitamin A. This is where it comes from. Our phytohormone gibberellin, which regulates plant growth and germination. This is a diterpene. All right. Let's keep going on down through here. If any of you guys have tried stevia, this is a plant sweetener. It is a diterpene. Okay, your gibberellins, your gibberellic acid, stem elongation, stem growth, seed germination, fruit set and growth. This is all going on inside your plant. This is where they're found. This is where they're formed. When you look at triterpenes, steroids, okay, you have anti-inflammatory, anti-arthritic. They inhibit tumors and growth. They're anti-malarial. Then we look at the sterols, which is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antifungal, and it inhibits cancer development. Anti-inflammatory, autoimmune disease suppressant with cholesterol and cancer and antioxidant. Okay, we go into tetra-terpenes. Okay, again, we have all of these antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, over and over and over, the production precursors to vitamin A, cancer, cardiovascular disease prevention. And you go on, we have our yellow pigments, our lutein. This is incredible for eyes. And you have astaxanthin, which is one of the most powerful antioxidants that's out there. And you go through and you look at all these anti-carcinogenic, anti-inflammatory, radical scavengers, anti-obesity. Then you get into your phenols, which are anti-inflammatory. They're immune modulators, these antioxidants. Then you pick this up and we go into the green teas, the anti-cancers. You have celery, parsley, immune system, dandelions, thyme, all of these amazing compounds. Phenols are part of the structural strength of our cell walls, our capillaries, our blood vessels, vitamin C, and our oxygen reactive absorption capacity. Free radical scavenger, stabilizes our cell membranes, reduces inflammation. Inflammation is the base of all of our diseases. Every disease we will have starts with inflammation. Something is there that shouldn't be there. Okay, phenolic acid, again, salicylic acid, aspirin, and again, a whole bunch of immune responses, attacks, bacteria, fungal, viruses. the plants produce over 350 groups of phytoalexins. This is a plant's chemistry that allows it to defend itself against soil-borne and airborne pathogens. And these phytoalexins are rearranged according to the plant's needs to defend itself. Well, when a plant is susceptible to all of these environmental factors that cause disease, we are not creating these phytoalexins in our plant. The trace minerals are not there. The enzymes, that intelligence which is there but not functioning, is not producing these compounds. And that's why you see plant disease. And it works the same in plants, it works the same in animals, it works the same in humans. So your resveratrol, a lot of noise about that lately, stops cancer, strokes, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so you start looking, this list goes on and on. So my question really is all of these incredible compounds that exist out there, why are we sick? We are not designed as a species to be sick. All these diseases that are taking us as a society and as a nation are not the way we're designed. We don't have the biological input or the mineral input into our plants. We kill the messenger, which is the insect or the disease. We harvest an unhealthy, unfit plant, we eat it, and then we say, gee, why are we sick? We're eating components that aren't complete. If an insect wants it, you shouldn't. And so when we look at our sulfonated amino acids, our cruciferous, our kale, turnips, cabbage, broccoli, our horseradishes, Brussels sprouts, all of these guys are producing incredible compounds, these anti-cancer, liver detoxifiers, our alliums, our garlic, onions, leeks, antibacterial, antifungal, antivirus. And this whole thing goes on and on and on. These plants can produce millions of compounds, but the biological pathway is through microbial nutrition and mineral nutrition, and God did not put plan B into place. There is no secondary plan for this to happen. So, guys, that's what we've learned from agriculture. That's what we do. Hope you enjoyed it.